Okay, everybody, welcome back to the main stage. I have got an amazing session for you. We're joined Shane from SideQuest, Rosie, who you might know from VR Rosie, doing amazing artwork and all the stuff that she does, and Rob, who's the chair of VR Manchester, who's going to be moderating and representing this session. So I'm going to go. I'm going to hand it over to Rob. And Rob, give me a shout when you need me at the end. So let's get the chat going. Loads of questions, and I've been looking forward to this one. So see you soon.
Yes, Harvey, I am back in my freezing garage. But it works. And as Mark said, it's really interesting. There's people all over the world. I was listening to the Metaverse talk between Lee and Ryan in the car on the way to pick my kid up from nursery. And I learned what a non-fungible token is. I thought that was cool. So we're here to talk about SideQuest, and I think how it's helping empower indie video game developers and VR creatives and all the other cool stuff that it does. Just to introduce myself. So I'm Rob Scott. By day, I work at the BBC as a UX architect. I work on boring flat things. That's not true. They're okay. They are fun. But by night, I chair the VR Manchester Meetup Committee. We're a meetup that meets in Manchester to talk about VR. We're over 5 years old now. We started talking about VR before it was even released, and we're still going. Rosie, do you want to say who you are?
Yeah, hello. I'm Rosie. I'm a 3D animator in the games industry and a virtual reality artist performing at multiple events, festivals. Just spreading the love of VR wherever I go.
And Shane.
Hi, I'm Shane. I'm the CEO and co-founder of SideQuest, which was a great sort of happy accident that we just managed to get caught up in. I guess I'm a developer. That's probably how I'd describe myself. I've worked in a couple of, high-profile roles in technology companies here in Belfast, where I live. People are always surprised to hear that SideQuest is from Belfast. I'm just a serial early adopter, passionate about technology, really enjoying being on the cutting edge. And in this day and age, it feels like it's more valuable than ever.
Thanks. I think that early adopter thing definitely pervades across. I know that our meetup, which is a tiny, small part of the world, but I still feel a bit like an early adopter sometimes. Though maybe now the Quest 2 is out there a bit, starting to feel a bit more pervasive. Shane, did you want to talk a little bit about SideQuest? So where did it come from? Why did you start doing it? I think it started as an Oculus Go side loading thing. Is that right?
Well, we started building it actually not long before the Quest released, and at that time, not many people had a Quest in hand. So we used the Go to prototype some of the very, very early versions, hoping that when the Quest released, it was going to be basically the same, and thankfully it was. So that made the launch of it pretty smooth. Basically, SideQuest came from our sort of eagerness to get into the indie space and build VR content. We were releasing a game. We submitted to Oculus as soon as the pitch announcement was made, which was around March of 2019, and we were rejected. And I guess all of a sudden there was a significant number of other developers also being rejected. So we were faced with a choice. Either we just give up on our dreams, give up on this new flagship device that's clearly going to dominate for the next while, or figure out another way. And SideQuest was our way to potentially get content to users. And I can't really remember where it all sort of took off, but a ton of developers just started to get involved, and things just grew from there.
I know. I was personally impressed with SideQuest. So the first time, because I got a Quest on launch day, and in 2019 I did this thing where I played Beat Saber in loads of different places, and so I wanted to keep it fresh. So SideQuest was my way of adding the mods for Beat Saber and getting all the custom songs from Beat Saber. So all those integrations absolutely blew me away. So it's obviously this really big, complicated thing. And I think it's interesting you said you tried to publish a game and got rejected, or tried to pitch a game and got rejected. And it's okay, let's build our own way of publishing is the most developer way to solve that problem. Was just we're just going to figure out a way to do it without that roadblock. How is that fed into the ethos of what you're doing, as how you're trying to kind of democratize that access to being able to share your content?
Well, I think it's probably been one of the most beneficial things is that we can understand the position that the developers who rely on SideQuest are in. And, I've tended to, from time to time, I'll take a week out and I'll build a small, simple app concept just to kind of keep in close touch with that developer process, that developer workflow. Obviously, SideQuest itself takes up a huge amount of my time. It was just me and my wife working on it until until September of last year. We've now expanded out. We've got an engineering team, thankfully, so they're able to take a lot of the workload off me. But yeah, so basically I like to, from time to time, sort of get back to actual VR development, building things, some of which, I worked with Rosie on building out some examples of her content, and that's a fine example of being able to sort of stay in touch with what's going on, what's involved, what's important, what's key to developers out there. And I think that's what's helped us to kind of remain grassroots and to continue to sort of have our developers' interests at heart.
That's awesome. Rosie, just coming to you. You've said your origin story many times, so that means you're probably quite good at saying it now. But talk about, like, how did you get started with VRR? I know you've shared the video on Twitter of the first time you tried Tilt Brush. What's the thing you've gone all in on?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a long story, really. I started off as a fine artist doing traditional portraiture, sort of telling stories through the emotions of the subjects that I was painting. And then I got bored of the static and I wanted to tell stories with more movement, more vigor and life. And that's when I found animation, which is like, the art of telling stories through motion. And it was actually while studying animation that I found VR to explore a more intimate connection to narratives and worlds. And it was one video that was like a pivotal moment for me in VR, for like discovering the power of this medium. And that was watching the famous animator Glen Keane from Disney painting Ariel in Tilt Brush. And it's one that, it did its round. It's probably like one of the most popular, VR videos, to be honest. And that was just a whole other level to me as an artist, seeing him bringing a character to life in the world around him. They had like a presence, it had a physicality. And that was what really inspired me to, uncover this medium and what I can do with it. And the next day after seeing that video, I went and bought my first headset, and then that's when my creative world was just like turned upside down.
I think it's so interesting. I know I've heard it before, but interesting hearing it again is like lots of people have that moment where they're just like, I need this thing in my life, and whatever I need to do to get this thing in my life, I will. Because I reduced my pension contributions to buy my Vive. I was like, I need VR at this point. And just the fact that you went out the next day and did it as well. It's so interesting.
Absolutely.
So now you're in this like niche of VR artist, and I kind of don't think there's that many of you. Like, what does that feel like? Or do you disagree? Do you think there's lots?
No, well, there's a quite a bubbling community out there, actually. I don't know if that's just because I'm in it and I'm feeling like there's loads because I'm like, right in the center. But it does feel like it's growing quite rapidly, especially with more headsets coming out at lower price ranges. We're seeing a few more people joining the community. But I think it's really exciting growth right now.
And with Open Brush now, hopefully there's just more. That like Mike said, that barrier to entry is even further reduced now. You don't have to pay the 30 for Tilt Brush. So maybe more will grow. Who knows? So we've kind of talked about your origin stories a bit. So let's move a little bit more into the present. So Shane, if we could talk about what's been going on most recently with SideQuest? Has there been any particular successes? And I know App Labs launched recently, so I don't know if you wanted to talk any more about that.
It's been hard to keep up, I think, for the last 3 to 4 months. Things have been crazy. Things have always kind of been crazy with SideQuest, and it's always been hard. But I think I got the team at the right time. Quest 2 launched, huge for us. Just before Quest 2 launched, I think we were at roughly about 290,000 monthly active users or so. We're now approaching 1.5 million. So that's in the last 3 months. So obviously you've got significant events there, the Quest 2 launch, Christmas, even Black Friday, and most recently the App Lab announcement as well. So we're just seeing incredible growth, and it's amazing to be so involved in this community and to get to yeah, to get to help developers and provide a good, decent resource. I think it's something that VR needs in this early stage.
I was just going to say, like, Oculus, of course, they don't release many numbers. We get the numbers about how their third-party, like, non-advertising content is doing. But that is a really interesting, like, so you said you're approaching 1.5 million. And these are the people that are willing to download a piece of software, go to developer mode to enable SideQuest. Like, it's not hard, but at the same time, because didn't even Oculus make it harder to become a developer recently? You had to give, like, more details, like a phone number and things like that. So I think that's absolutely huge to hear that there's that many people. Can you talk a bit more about, because I know you've actually got a relationship with Oculus, so it's not like you were these, like, rebels out on the fringes that are, like, sniping away and taking stuff away. They're actually quite engaged in the whole thing, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been in active discussion with Oculus since before OC6, which was probably around August time, 2019, not long after the Quest 1 had launched. And yeah, I think what's great is that many of the features that have come out now with that lab are things that we've been talking about to Oculus since as early as OC6. So yeah, basically we sort of worked with them on this new system. It's kind of great to see that they've embraced the indie community and that they see value here and in the future of this. So yeah, it's just a win-win for everybody, I think. And like you say, before that, we've got a fairly, I wouldn't say it's difficult, but I also wouldn't call it easy onboarding process with SideQuest. And that's something we've never really been able to control, but we've always tried to support. And it's exciting to have new ways to access content. It's exciting to be able to remove some of those barriers, and that's a great opportunity for SideQuest because it opens up a whole new segment. We've often thought that we've reached the ceiling in the number of users who are willing to challenge or take on that kind of technical barrier. And now with App Lab releasing, there's potential there for more users to get involved, more success for developers. And we're just delighted to kind of to be there. And yeah, our main focus right now is just to help build our communities.
Yeah, I think, in case you don't know, so App Lab has just recently launched an Oculus, and that is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a way for independent developers to publish to the store, but they're not discoverable in the main store. So it's like almost like a secret app, and the developers can publish a link or market the thing themselves, no easy feat, and people can still get to those apps without having to, without necessarily finding them and them being promoted and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it means there can be more content on there. And I think I might, right, so whatever you think about Palmer Luckey, I think when he started at Oculus, he was very much on, like, we should not make a complete walled garden out of Oculus, which is why one of the reasons that I think Oculus works on Steam VR. It wasn't originally going to be that way. They wanted their own garden, and he was very much on, no, we can't lock ourselves out of everything else. So maybe some of that ethos has stuck around through Facebook's, sub to what I don't know what I want to say, but consumption of Oculus, and made it still a thing that is that kind of slightly open thing. I'm going to move over to Rosie now, and just to talk about what you've been doing more recently. So I know you've had a few commissions and things like that. Have you done anything recently, or what are your most memorable commissions that you've done as a VR artist?
Yeah, well, my most recent commission was really exciting. That was with the British Library. And that was a live performance where I painted a world encompassing the inspirational author Alison Jolly. So that was really fun, but it was my first ever virtual performance, so I was so nervous because I've had to sort of adapt the way I work to deal with the events industry, being in hiatus. So yeah, I've been working on like a virtual production mixed reality sort of suite, which you can see behind me. And yeah, it was a lot to do in such a short space of time, but I think it went well. And it was, yeah, more than anything, it was just so great to work on such a project like that. And yeah, I've got lots of exciting stuff lined up at the minute. One of my most memorable ones was obviously working with the BBC, and obviously the space app, which was so exciting. Yeah, it was amazing. I just got a DM one day like from SideQuest saying, hey, do you want to work together on an app? I was like, oh my gosh, yes, this is something I've been wanting to do for ages, is make like a gallery space Just never got around to it. And then obviously this opportunity was coming up to it with such a fabulous team. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I took ages giving assets and stuff. But once the speed that the SideQuest team worked, I was like, wow, it's just banging out like new iterations by the day. It was insane. And yeah, the whole experience is just really lovely, beautiful little gallery space. A lot of people have been using it for meditation. They've told me it's just having that nice escape, especially in hard times right now. People are using it for that mainly, and that means a lot to hear. That my art is giving people that sort of respite, you know. So it was such a rewarding project, and it's such an amazing app. I mean, thank you so much.
It was fun. It was really fun to create. I was actually thinking about it recently, and I was just as busy as you, so don't worry. You know, the delays were welcome. I have a backlog of things now. We obviously put out an expression of interest for anybody else, you know, whenever, because we did this before the Poly announcement, of course.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, it was
last year. But yeah, we've been recently working on some multi-user technology to be able to run basically multi-user events. So I was possibly considering, with your permission, experimenting with the Space and app and seeing if we could make it so that multiple people could join it at once. So that's something that yeah, we can connect about after this, I'm sure. See, yeah, I think it could be really cool.
Yeah. I was you reminded me, so like the whole VR meditation thing, I think like where I work, they have this thing called the Blue Room, which is like all the latest consumer tech. People can come in and try it and see how audience experiences might be manifested through this technology. And the most popular thing, hands down, like we had VR in there for years and years and years, and people would come in and they'd maybe do something in the Valve Lab, or they'd play in Tilt Brush or something like that. And then there was a whole like mindfulness series that like not a festival, but like a focus on it within the office. And so the people that ran the Blue Room got like a VR mindfulness app, and they were booked out every day with people coming to do all these mindfulness experiences. And it's interesting to see, like, if you take a trend, like mindfulness has been, growing and getting bigger and bigger for a long time. You take a trend like that and suddenly people are much more interested in trying a technology. If they think there's a shortcut, I think that's part of it. What was I going to say? So the space piece. So like, talk a bit more about like how that works. 'Cause I think you have like galleries and you can physically walk through into things. Is that right?
Yeah, it's like portals. There's like a doorway portal, and if you're outside the doorway, you can sort of like look, and there's a parallax effect with the space behind. So cool. And you go into the portal, and then it loads. It's like an instant load. It's just there, and then you can walk around, zoom around. It's the camera movement's like really nice and slow, so it's like that plays that relaxing aspect. And then I think there's 4 or 5 different space scenes, or even 6 actually. I'm trying to remember now. There's quite a wide variety of different nebulae and gaseous forms, and then obviously the supermassive black hole, which seems to be most people's favorite actually. It's going straight in the middle of the black hole.
Sign of the times. Shane, can I ask, so like, do you remember where you first encountered Rosie's work, and was there anything specific that made you want to take it and go, let's put this in a thing so more people can experience this?
I don't think anybody who's kind of active in VR and in social media wouldn't have encountered Rosie's work. I mean, it's just everywhere. I've encountered it just by browsing Google Poly. I've encountered it just by seeing the feed on Twitter. I've come across it in VR chat. It's obviously really appealing, and instantly kind of you tend to gravitate towards it. So it's something that was on the long finger for me for a while, and I'm just really glad that we got a chance to do it, because I think it's important. I think content creators in VR, whatever they're doing, they're kind of living on the cutting edge. They're running on passion, and we're all kind of living in the year 3000. So it's just the sort of thing that you want to encourage, I guess.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. We haven't had any questions yet in the chat, but if anybody does want to throw anything in there, we can break and divert off into those questions. We've got a little bit of time to do that. So we talked about kind of where you came from, what's going on now. So let's think a little bit about the future. So, and Rosie, we'll start with you. So, like, I say this, and I'm not. The Americans would say I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. Off the back of what Shane said, like, you just graft so hard, and I'm constantly impressed by that. Like, you've built a mixed reality studio at home. I don't think you're that far off getting a blue tick on Twitter or Instagram. Like, if I was gonna, vote for someone to get a blue tick, I've applied for a blue tick. They obviously say no. But, like, have you thought about, like, what's your goal behind all this? Like, you're doing all this work, you're pumping out all this content, and you're not just creating the art, you're editing the videos and you're uploading them places. Have you thought about where you're going to take it?
Yeah. Oh, I very rarely think about the future. Yeah, it's a hard one. I'm more of a, like, go with the flow of the moment sort of person. But, yeah, I'm just going to continue to experiment, challenge myself, learn new things. I really want to learn, like, rendering and stuff like that, and rendering some models nicely with lighting and stuff like that. I really want to play with that aspect, and yeah, see where that takes me. Sort of like evolve with the medium, so to speak.
Okay, I mean, do you like, obviously you've done a lot of stuff so far. Can you see a correlation between the work you're putting in and the like result of that, whether that result is financial or just like being well known, or even just getting all that lovely interaction on Twitter? Because I see how much you reply to people. You're obviously really grateful of that. So do you see that correlation?
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely so grateful. I never expected to get an account with over like 2K followers. Never mind, like nearly 10K now. It's insane. But I always do it for like myself, like just painting, drawing, and yeah, so the fact that people like it, it's like, oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, and it's just being able to work with such a wide variety of projects. That is a big thing for me. I'm working on a really exciting thing at the moment where I'm like teaching these traditional artists VR tools, and they're just blowing my mind. These artists which have never touched VR before, and they're just really, really talented, and they're just picking up these tools and creating some amazing pieces of art. It's just moments like that which are so rewarding, and it's just, yeah, it's so nice to be a part of this community and that.
Okay, I just want to zoom in on that a little bit, because like you're getting to it. So anybody that's demoed VR has had those moments where they've demoed it to somebody for the first time, and you vicariously are taken back to when you first tried it. Like, have you got any like tidbits or anecdotes from that where you've seen somebody go, holy shit, this is the thing?
All the time. Every single workshop I've done, there's always been that moment, and it's more so with kids. It's more so with children when they try something like tilt brush. They're like, oh my gosh, look, daddy, look. And they're showing them like a big rainbow house and stuff. It's just moments like that when you're seeing that bonding over this medium. It really is rewarding.
Lovely. Shane, we'll come to the questions in just a bit. But similar question about the future. So, SideQuest started out as a way to bypass the Oculus quality control, and that approach to increasing the number of experiences. Obviously, I think that's directly, or very, not completely, but quite responsible for legitimizing the introduction of that through App Labs. So, where do you think's next for SideQuest? Is it similar to Rosie, keep on keeping on, or do you have more of a vision for where you're going to take it?
I think our goal at SideQuest right now is just to continue focusing on what's best for kind of growing our community. We're seeing exponential growth right now. That seems like it's the best area to focus on. And all signs are kind of pointing up for us in terms of how the future is going to increase. So I think it's important that we just focus on the community, and focus on giving as much back to developers as we possibly can.
Ace. Let's jump into some questions then, because we've got a few. So Antonia says, Rosie, given your background, do you prefer painting portraiture and fine art, or other subjects like your space art? And how do you decide what to paint? Two good questions.
That's a really good question, because it's quite a weird one. I started off obviously with fine art, painting portraits and stuff, and then animation about characters. And all of a sudden with VR, I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to do worlds. I want to start creating environments and backgrounds, which I was always really bad at, and I hated doing environments and stuff like that. But with VR, it sort of brought out this inner desire to start making worlds which I never knew I had, which was surreal. But now I actually do like prefer creating like vast, expansive fantasy worlds and stuff like that. And but also I've been bringing in that portraiture aspect as well into VR and doing like 3D portraits. And I love those because it's like sculpting with clay, but in VR without the mess and easy undos and stuff like that. And you feel like you get to know the person because he's got all that tactility as you like sculpting the face and stuff like that. I love that. So it's a tough one to decide between the two, but oh yeah, that's a good question.
I think it's interesting that, like, I mean, fine art, straight away I think of a canvas and you have constraints there, and all of a sudden in Tilt Brush, there are no constraints. So it kind of almost makes sense that you would go from portraiture or something like that to like, I'm going to paint the entire universe because I have the space to paint the entire universe. And I think that's a really interesting little story. And another question, Andrew Connor says, you're inspired by animation, is new to SideQuest, but is there a community there for VR animators? So I don't know if you mean like, Andrew, do you mean like, does one exist or could one exist? I don't know if either of you want to take that.
I think definitely. We recently launched a communities feature on our site, so we're actually in the process of trying to grow that aspect of SideQuest. And yeah, the uptake has been great. There's been tons of communities created, but it's just as much open to any kind of content creators, not specifically just developers of games and apps. So yeah, I think it would be great to get a community like that set up. In fact, one thing that we're going to be doing a lot soon with SideQuest is running virtual reality events. I mentioned before, we're dabbling with some multi-user technology, and the purpose of that is to run events. So I'd love to be able to kind of run some events and help to promote artists in the community and to try and get, drive some hype, shall we say, around a lot of that stuff. It would be great to be able to highlight that as much as I could.
And Rosie, I know you mentioned it earlier, but like you said, there's a little community of VR artists, but VR animations, like, what's your experience of that? Is there any organizing hub that you center around, or is it a bit more decentralized in the theme of the event? Yeah,
I'd say the main community bubbles that I'm a part of anyway is the VR Art Live Discord, which is really, really exciting. Tons of VR creatives on there all sharing their work, which always keeps me inspired. And there's a Facebook group for Tilt Brush Art as well. There's quite a few Facebook groups actually, which all about different categories. So you've got your VR animation, you've got your Tilt Brush artists. Yeah, and they're always like really cool hubs to connect with the community.
Awesome. If there are any other questions, we can have that. I just wanted to kind of wrap and try and bring it back to the theme of the event on the metaverse. Is like, so we've definitely through SideQuest got this very open, democratized way of having people be able to contribute stuff and also share stuff. And then I think Rosie, what you really kind of showing is that like there is this thing for we've got this infinite space for which to create assets. And I know I was in the car, I was listening to Lee and Ryan, and it was just so interesting to think about like these unique digital things. Like digital has always been, I can copy it an infinite number of times, and just to ask the question, what if you couldn't copy it an infinite number of times? What if it was just a thing that existed? Really, NFT everything. Yes, Mark. I think it's like interesting how all these different skill sets and mindsets are going to all play together into the metaverse. I really like also. I'm just showing that I did listen in earlier. I like what Lee said about like the metaverse is like it's the connections between things. It's not necessarily the things. It's the way you move around those things. So if we don't have any more questions, Mark, I don't know if you want to come back. I know you said to shave off a little bit of time. I hope we haven't shaved off too much time, but I think we've covered all the bases. Here he comes. There he is.
Yeah, brilliant. It was fascinating. I've got a few questions. I've finished my dinner, by the way, because I ran out and I got to eat. So back on the themes of the metaverse. How do we take the gaming of SideQuest and that community and sort of bring it with the NFT crypto art community, and then bring it with sort of Rosie's digital creators in Tilt Brush community? because they're all working towards the same kind of goal, but they're all in silo different places. Does anybody have any ideas how we can start to bring communities together? Big question. Shane, go for it.
Yeah, I think our main focus for the last while has been to explore ways we can sort of drive that community engagement across SideQuest. Now, a lot of it's obviously been gaming focused. We've been working directly with developers, getting involved in various different giveaways and stuff, trying to drive more traffic towards them. Yeah, I mean, I think what's key really is just to be as active as you possibly can across the board in as many of these communities. That's one thing that I think we've always seen at SideQuest, is that some of the most successful content is relentless when it comes to promoting that content and kind of getting it out there. So cross promotion across multiple communities, it's something I've always believed in. It's something I've always advocated for. So I think that's a no-brainer at the offset. But yeah, I mean, in terms of some of the topics covered today, there's certainly technologies that SideQuest has that allows for, private distribution. There's the same on Oculus. I'm not sure exactly how that would work with some of this unique content, but there's potential there for us to explore how we could use that technology to help each other.
Cool. So Rosie, I mean, you move across communities because you're a creator. Do you have any thoughts on that? How we can bring the different communities closer together?
Yeah, well, Shane nailed it there. To be honest, it's just that cross conversation, and yeah, to be honest, I'm already working with a bunch of different communities. I already feel like that's already happening. But yeah, no, I'm sure it'll just keep happening.
Rob, I'm going to bring Rob into this one as well, because you run VR Manchester with your collective, and you've been doing that for 3, maybe 4 years now, and you're adapting and changing it. Do you have any thoughts on community building and community management?
You'd think I would. So what was really interesting for us is I think very much in the way that Rosie said, it's I mean, I joined VR Manchester on the 3rd or 4th meetup, I think. And then kind of we took it from there. And we did one thing, which was we did an event where people just talked about VR, and it was always an in-person event, and you got some food, and you had a drink after work, and there was always somebody interesting to talk about. Not unlike this and the few online meetings we've done. And so there's definitely something about accessibility to those events. The fact that I could come to this event through a browser on my phone while I was driving in my car is a really important thing. It's an important lesson in accessibility. And by that, I do mean, accessibility in its traditional sense, as in people have different needs to access things. But if I was going all in on one thing, no, that's not completely true. There are 2 things I think are really important to getting this out, and one of them is web standards. There is the WebXR, the first standard is out there. Mozilla Hubs uses it. It's got all the stuff it needs to be. It just doesn't quite deliver. When I say it doesn't quite deliver, it really doesn't deliver yet. But something that is accessible through the browser and easily and through the cloud, that isn't an app, that isn't in an ecosystem, that's where we're going to start getting things. And that's where stuff NFTs and digital identities and things that you can carry through places are going to start getting important, because we can't take skins from Call of Duty into Fortnite at the moment. And we need to be able to move those things around and carry that identity around with us, which I'm going off on a tangent now, but it's our real world events. You are you, and you come as yourself, and you get to interact with the world as yourself, and you're accountable to that person as yourself. And I think whilst we have privacy things to think about with the metaverse, you still need to be able to come as yourself to all these things, and be able to interact with people. The second thing I was going to talk about is whatever Apple are doing, if I could stop everything, it would be to get all in on what Apple are doing, because that might be the thing that really pushes it into the mainstream, but we'll see.
They're into cars now, Rob.
We'll see.
I'm going to throw last couple of questions then to wrap it up. I'm looking at the chat. So Rosie, if somebody was starting out as a VR artist and they wanted, they were new to it, would you have any tips for them to get started?
Yeah, biggest tip I'd say is to just get experimenting. Just get playing, load up to brush, play with all the brushes, make a neon nightmare, as Lee coined. And yeah, just have a whole bunch of fun, just learning the brushes, what you can, and that's the best way you can learn out what to do with them. That's the best way you'll discover the best way that you can bring your creative vision to life, how you envisage it. And yeah, just get playing. Like, I mean, this is still quite, I'd say this medium is still very much in its infancy. It has a lot of growth. So this is the pivotal moment really to start shaping its future. So yeah.
And we're coming off the back of an open brush that, you know, with Mike and you're part of that as well, is that there's this whole new toolkit that's just been invented, and it's only going to get better. And the ability to have seeds and plant them and not have to make everything. It means you can take someone else's art from a library, and suddenly you've got maybe some of your art, and you can plonk the fire down. You know, you always put the fire, as you said on Twitter, is one of the first things people build, because you can gather around it, and maybe it's quite from our ancient past. So Shane, last one for you, I think. With SideQuest, because it's got a great community for experimentation, do you accept kind of demos on the platform, or does it have to be sort of a full thing? What's your, I guess, quality control there, or is there none? Like, can you talk us through that kind of process as a place to take work and experiment it with an audience?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, pretty much that's the ethos of what SideQuest is about. You know, we're not in the business of rejecting content. We're in the business of getting it out there and helping you with that. So my advice to anybody who's interested is, as soon as you feel happy, get it submitted, because we can likely get it in front of thousands of people, within a day or two. We get a lot of submissions. That's the only thing that kind of holds us up. But as far as, any kind of policy or regulation in terms of what you can and can't publish on SideQuest, we're extremely open, except for adult content is all that we don't allow. And other than that, as long as it works and it loads up okay, we're happy to get behind you and help you get that out to people.
Fantastic. Rob, I'm going to hand it back to you if you've anything you want to report with or say, and then we'll bring it to a close.
No, I've not got anything else to say. I'm now in the chat as we talk about like Apple and Open and what will they do with these things. But I just want to say thanks very much for having me. Thanks, Rosie, Shane. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I think it was a really, really interesting chat. I'm sure we'll all be around in the networking later to say hello. But thanks very much, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Can we get a round of applause in the chat there if we can?
It'll be 20 seconds from now, mate. We're ahead of time. We're in the future, literal future to everyone else. So come.
Anyway, everyone hang around. I'm going to close this down. Jump in the networking tab. Go meet everyone. There's like 80 people in there doing whatever you're talking about. Go in the network. We're going to be back here in about 10 minutes time. We've caught up. So we're back in 10 minutes. And it's going to be Antonia and Luca. And they're going to be talking about interaction within the metaverse. And it's going to get technical. So stick around for that. And 2 more sessions to go. Thank you very much, everybody. See you soon.